and our Soapbox social panel is here again. And just in time, as video has just emerged of Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim making false claims about opposition councillors. So here is a recording provided to us by City News of Ken Sim speaking to Chinese language journalists earlier this month.
We have a councillor, Sean Orr. Just this Christmas, he was handing out illegal drugs on Christmas Day to people on the streets.
Okay, so that was ABC Vancouver's Mayor Ken Sim speaking to Chinese language journalists February 6th in a recording provided to us by City News. And this comes after ABC councillor Lenny Zhou made similar false claims, which he has since apologized for. Okay, with us today, we have our Soapbox social panel. Kyla Lee is a Vancouver criminal lawyer for Acumen Law Corporation. Kyla, hello.
Hello, Gloria.
And Amir is with me here in studio. He's the host of the podcast, This is Van Color. Hello, Mo.
Hello. What a day for Soapbox.
Oh, my.
Let's get into it.
What's your take on this? First, that Joe made the comments, and now it's come to light that Mayor Ken Sim made similar comments.
Yeah, well, Lenny Zhou made these comments, and he kind of said, councillors. He said plural. He said this on WeChat, targeted towards a Chinese-speaking audience. He retracted the claim, took down the video, apologized, but actually never really addressed the audience where the damage and the harm was done, which I thought was very strange. It's not really taking accountability, Councillor Zhou. And then today we learned, Rebecca Bly from Vote Vancouver, a former ABC Vancouver city councillor, she puts out this text from Singtao Daily, again from February 6th, saying that it was actually Ken Sim that made this claim about, a colleague, a city councillor, Sean Orr, distributing drugs on Christmas Day. And I just find this is wildly ironic because if you remember, Ken Sim actually filed a defamation lawsuit against his former chief of staff, Karim Alam, for allegedly spreading a rumor in a private conversation about Ken Sim. And here's Ken Sim spreading a rumor about a colleague on video, on record. Sean Orr says that he was actually on the Sunshine Coast on Christmas Day. So it's crazy. And then, I'm thinking about Lenny Zhou for a second. Like, Lenny, are you being held hostage? Blink twice if you're okay, because your boss just threw you under the bus for supposedly, spreading this misinformation when it turns out he was doing it in the first place.
Well, and we had Sean Orr here in studio, right where you're sitting, yesterday afternoon on the program. We put it directly to him. Have you ever given out drugs on it? He said, no, I have not. And this is before we heard the statement from Mayor Ken Sim. Kyla, Tuesday, again, Mayor Sim released a statement saying, I want to thank Councillor Zhou for acknowledging his mistake and taking responsibility for sharing information that was not accurate. What do you make of the recording we just heard from the mayor?
The whole thing feels kind of really dirty, especially, giving this statement thanking Lenny Zhou for apologizing while knowing all the whole while that he was the source of this rumor to begin with. It's just, it feels very politicky in the worst kind of way. And, I think that there is a real big risk here that both of these individuals could end up sued. It is defamation per se to accuse somebody of criminal conduct without foundation. There doesn't necessarily have to be proof of damages. Certainly the forum in which these statements were made were to an audience where it would harm the reputation of these individuals to learn that type of information or believe that type of information. So, this does create a lot of exposure in a lot of different ways for the mayor and for ABC.
Right. Okay. So potential legal consequences, as Kyla points out. Well, what about political consequences? And it was interesting because when we were talking about the initial Lenny Zhou comments, they were comments he made on a video in Mandarin, and we had to get to a translation for all of that. We just heard the mayor speaking in English to Chinese language journalists right there. But he accepted an apology from his councillor without admitting he made the same allegation
Knowing
about the co-councillor
exactly.
this month.
I think that speaks to his character. And I think the people of Vancouver will eventually decide if that's the type of mayor that they want, someone who throws their own colleagues under their bus for their own misbehavior, for their own deeds, someone who allegedly, apparently, very obviously, I would say, is defaming his colleagues for political gain. Let's be honest. ABC Vancouver and Ken Sim have had this weird obsession with Sean Orr since the day he was elected. They've really gone after him in, I think, very unnecessary ways. And again, I just think it speaks to the unprofessionalism, the fact that Ken Sim is, in a lot of parts of the city, seen as a joke and an unserious mayor. And I think this will absolutely hurt him. I think he's really narrowed the probability that he will be reelected.
Right. Well, I mean, the handing out drugs was one part of the comment. Kyla, another part of the comment was about supportive housing and a motion that Rebecca Bly was going to bring forward this week. That has since been delayed a little bit. Well, we have seen several supportive housing projects canceled in the wake of local concerns around public safety. We spoke to the mayor of Burnaby about a recent one that was let go in Burnaby in the last little while on Imperial Avenue. So despite this controversy around ABC Vancouver, do you see that trend continuing, not moving forward with supportive housing projects?
Oh, absolutely. I think we're going to see a lot more projects with supportive housing being canceled or delayed. Trying to remember what the word was that the finance minister used. Repaced, which is just one letter away from replaced, if you think about it, because there's no money. There's no money now. And the organizations that were kicking up funds for this, the municipalities that were putting in funds for this, were counting on provincial government money that's now not going to come in the same way. Developers have been saying for the last year that they can't afford to be creating projects that don't have for-profit housing entirely in their development. So I see this as the beginning of what is going to be a huge wave of cancellations, repacing, and ultimately eliminating supportive housing that really needs to be created.
Well, you make a good point about no money, but there's another point, and that came up with my conversation with Mayor Hurley yesterday about the Burnaby project, and that is community opposition. Community opposition, and this feeling that if you put in supportive housing, it's going to bring, in his words, going to bring drugs, or the perception it's going to bring drugs to the community. So, I mean, what's it going to take to address those kinds of community concerns about these projects?
Oh gosh, it's going to take a lot, because I feel like this is the persistent challenge with a lot of supporting housing projects, is that everyone in principle agrees that they want people, housed, unhoused people housed. They want people who have mental health and addictions issues to receive treatment, just nowhere near my community. Even if it's happening in your community on your streets and there's, let's say drug paraphernalia in the parks and there's unhoused people on the streets, people feel like supportive housing will just bring more of that, ironically. And I think what it'll take to make these projects successful is a lot of communication from different levels of government, the provincial government and the municipalities, websites, information, town halls, that sort of thing, to explain what safeguards are being put in place to address people's concerns, whether it is public safety or cleanliness or whatever else it is. These things have to be communicated. And I think there may be times when municipalities in particular sandbag these projects because they actually don't want them. They don't want to take on the political battle or expend political capital to get these things going.
Well, it's a very busy week. We've got another big story out of Vancouver City Hall, and that was the ABC majority passing a motion that commits $4 million for a new police academy. Again, downtown east side, this is the location that they're looking at where the London Drugs moved out. So the VPD argues that the Justice Institute has its own police academy right now. They say that no longer meets their needs. Kyla, what do you make of that argument?
I mean, I think it's all a little silly. It seems to meet the needs of every other municipal police force in British Columbia. It's been functioning for a very long time. Yes, there are problems with the Justice Institute, but they're nothing that can't be addressed. Creating your own policing academy and teaching your police in-house is problematic for far worse reasons than there are issues with the Justice Institute. For example, you're going to have, ultimately a situation of the blind leading the blind, where if you don't have these outside inputs, if training is being done that's done in a way that's contrary to law or incorrect or applies higher standards of use of force than should be permissible, that's just going to self-perpetuate because you have all the training happening insular inside this one department, as opposed to being done through this outside organization where you have multiple departments coming in and you have trainers who are coming and meeting a provincial standard that's applied to all police officers across the province.
Mo, how do you see it?
First of all, I think that $4 million might have to be reallocated to the mayor's legal fees and bills. So I don't know if it's still on the table. I think there's a lot of problems here. Kyla has just addressed quite a few of them. We know that at the Justice Institute, there are training seats available for the May session. They are apparently exceeding the seat requests from different municipalities. But there's also the consideration of the Business Improvement Association in the area. They wanted this area to be somewhat of a commercial district where there are shops and people can go and shop. And, that's what makes an entertainment or a commercial district, is you have a ton of places all clustered in one. on. So they have concerns there. I think there's the concerns around cost. You're putting this institution in a place which is, some of the most expensive real estate in the city of Vancouver. There's not a lot of parking. I think the neighborhood is probably going to be disappointed that an institution and a store like London Drugs is going to be replaced with something that they don't necessarily see a direct benefit from in their day-to-day lives. And, as Kyla said, it creates this weird divergence of police culture. So, is it going to be this thing where, oh, you were academy trained versus you were trained at the Justice Institute? I think it just creates a lot of divisions. I don't think it's realistic. And I think it sounds like the Solicitor General, Nina Krieger, is very open to creating more satellite training centers for the Justice Institute, but maybe not so hot on this idea.
No, it's interesting. You say, the idea for the area was to create sort of this retail hub as well. And we heard the quote from Ken Sim earlier today that retail doesn't create security. Security creates retail. That was what he was talking about. Again, the Academy would need provincial approval, Kyla. ABC and the VPD argue that this would make people feel safer. How do you think, what's your sense of how voters feel about all of this?
I mean, I don't think that voters feel great when they're seeing supportive housing projects canceled, when they're seeing tons of money being spent on things like FIFA and the extra policing costs associated with FIFA, that now, hey, look, $4 million more are going into something for the police with, I think what they predicted was a savings of $270,000 in 1 year. That's not a lot of money comparatively. And it's going to cost money to continue to operate in that space. There's going to be ongoing costs. Like, there's no savings associated with it. It's actually a greater expense to taxpayers. And that money, if they're really concerned about public safety in the area, that money could be used to do the things that community organizations have been saying over and over and over and over again should be happening, but no money has been spent to make happen.
Right. Well, Mo, it might be the policing academy. It might be any of the other issues that we've talked about today. What are you watching for as we get a little closer, in this lead up to the civic election in the fall?
Not so much in the lead up, but in the immediate aftermath, what I'm looking at is how ABC Vancouver and Mayor Ken Sim handles all of this. Are they going to dodge the media as they have all week? Are they going to give mealy-mouthed apologies that don't actually address the harm that was caused? Or are they going to confront it head on and take true accountability? The reality is they've actually protracted this issue. And so when this video landed, it just compounded upon how poorly it was handled when the comments came from Lenny Zhao. So I don't know. It's not a great week for them, and I think it will reverberate into the campaign.
Oh, shall we lighten things up just a little bit? Because you may be aware.
We can keep talking about Ken Sim.
We can keep
I got more.
We've got Survivor, the 50th season of Survivor. Are you a Survivor fan?
On and off, actually. Yeah, I used to be pretty hardcore. I'm not watching it right now, but it's the 50th season, so I feel like I should.
I know. Kyla, what about you?
I watched the first couple seasons, and after that, it kind of just felt really repetitive. The same thing happened at Tribal Council. Everybody kept forming alliances. To me, the excitement kind of ended.
Okay. Are we looking at some sort of political survivor in the next several months, do you think, in Vancouver?
Yeah. Who's going to get their torch snuffed? I got a few bets on that, but I don't think I could say it on air.
Okay. Kyla, how do you think that the Survivor as it stands today compares with, say, the premiere back in 2000?
I think that today it's become something that really does cater to the fans. You see the show responding to what the fans want. I know that a lot of the leadership of the show was taken over by Jeff Probst, who now is listening to what fans want. And I like that about the show. I like that there is, really input from the people who are consuming the content for what they want to see, and that's being reflected on screen. That to me is good leadership in television.
Listen, good to talk to you both. Thank you very much. And again, good day for this conversation, don't you think?
Happy to be here.
Lots going on. That is our Soapbox social panel. Mo Amir is the host of the This Is Vancouver podcast. Kyla Lee is a criminal lawyer for Acumen Law Corporation.